The rain was coming down in sheets as I stared out the window of our Chicago apartment. The city lights blurred into a hazy glow, mirroring the turmoil inside me. I'm Alaric, 46, an IT specialist, and until recently I thought I had it all: a loving wife, a comfortable home, and a life I'd worked hard to build. Now it felt like that life was crumbling around me, brick by painful brick. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. My wife Brant, a vibrant and outgoing woman, began acting distant. We'd been married for 15 years, a decade and a half of shared dreams and intertwined lives. We'd always been close, able to finish each other's sentences, anticipating each other's needs. But lately there was a wall between us, a coldness that chilled me to the bone. Brant started working late more often. She'd always had a demanding job as a marketing executive, but these late nights felt different. She'd come home exhausted, barely able to muster a hello before collapsing into bed. Our conversations dwindled, our shared meals became solitary affairs, and the warmth that had once filled our home was replaced by an unsettling silence. I tried to talk to her, to ask if something was wrong, but she'd brush me off, saying she was just stressed about work. I wanted to believe her, I truly did, but something in my gut told me otherwise. It was a nagging feeling, a persistent unease that I couldn't shake. Then came the phone calls. Brant had always been meticulous about her phone, keeping it close and silencing notifications during dinner. But now she was even more guarded. She'd take calls in the other room, her voice hushed and secretive. When I'd ask who it was, she'd say it was a client or a colleague, but her eyes would dart away, and her explanation always felt rehearsed. One evening, Brant left her phone on the kitchen counter while she went to take a shower. I know I shouldn't have, but the temptation was too strong. My hand trembled as I reached for the phone, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself I was doing it to ease my anxiety, to put my mind at rest. But deep down, I knew what I was looking for. The phone was locked, but then I remembered her birthday. I typed it in and the screen unlocked. My breath hitched. It felt like I was violating her trust, but I couldn't stop myself. I went straight to her messages. There were dozens of texts from an unknown number, a number I didn't recognize. My fingers fumbled as I opened the messages. What I saw next sent a shockwave through my body, a wave of nausea and disbelief that threatened to overwhelm me. The messages were filled with flirtatious banter, suggestive emojis, and outright declarations of love. It was clear, sickeningly clear, that Brant was having an affair. The messages were from a man named Kester. I didn't recognize the name. They talked about meeting up for secret lunches, late-night drinks, and stolen moments. They spoke of a connection, a passion that Brant clearly wasn't finding with me. I scrolled through the messages, each one a fresh stab to the heart. I felt like I was reading someone else's life, a twisted version of my own. How could this be happening? How could Brant, the woman I loved, the woman I trusted, be capable of such betrayal? I didn't hear Brant come downstairs. She was standing in the doorway, her face pale, her eyes wide with horror. She knew. She knew I'd seen the messages. "Alaric," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can explain, explain." I repeated, my voice rising. "Explain how you've been lying to me for weeks. Explain how you've been sneaking around behind my back. Explain how you could do this to me." Brant burst into tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she sobbed. "It just happened, it just happened," I scoffed. "Affairs don't just happen, Brant, they're a choice. A deliberate, conscious choice to betray the person you're supposed to love." She tried to touch me, but I recoiled. I couldn't bear to be near her. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, was a stranger, a liar, a cheat. "Who is he?" I demanded. "Who is Kester?" Brant hesitated, her eyes filled with shame. He's a colleague. We've been working closely together on a project." "So you're sleeping with a colleague?" I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "How original." "It's not like that," she insisted. "It's more complicated than you think." "Complicated?" I roared. "How much more complicated can it be? You're married to me and you're sleeping with someone else. That's not complicated, Brant. That's betrayal. That's the ultimate violation of trust." We argued for hours that night, a bitter, painful exchange of accusations and denials. Brant pleaded for forgiveness, begging me to understand. She said she still loved me, that the affair was a mistake, a moment of weakness, but I couldn't forgive her. The trust was broken, shattered into a million pieces. I couldn't look at her without seeing Kester's face, without imagining them together. The thought made me sick to my stomach. I told her to leave. I couldn't bear to have her in the same house, the same city. I needed space, time to process what had happened, to figure out how to move forward. Bront packed her bags and left the next morning, her face streaked with tears. As she walked out the door, she turned to me one last time. "I'm so sorry, Alaric," she said. "I've ruined everything. I didn't say anything." I just watched her go, my heart heavy with grief and anger. After Bront left, I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I couldn't focus on anything. I was consumed by the betrayal, the pain, the sheer unfairness of it all. I spent hours replaying our marriage in my head, searching for clues, for signs that I'd missed. Had I been a bad husband? Had I not been attentive enough? Had I somehow driven her into Kester's arms? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd been a good husband, a loving partner. I'd supported Bront's career, celebrated her successes, and comforted her during her failures. I'd been there for her always. The problem wasn't me. The problem was Bront. She was the one who had made the choice to betray our marriage, to seek validation and excitement outside of our relationship. As the days turned into weeks, I started to feel a shift inside me. The initial shock and grief began to give way to anger, a burning rage that demanded justice. I couldn't let Bront get away with this. I couldn't let her simply walk out of my life and pretend that nothing had happened. I decided to hire a private investigator. I wanted to know everything about Kester, about their affair, about the extent of Bront's deception. I needed to understand what had happened, to arm myself with the truth. The investigator, a woman named Astrid, was efficient and discreet. She quickly uncovered a wealth of information about Kester. He was indeed a colleague of Bront's, a junior executive with a reputation for being ambitious and ruthless. He was married with 2 young children. Astrid also provided me with photos of Bront and Kester together, images that confirmed my worst fears. They were holding hands, kissing, laughing. They looked like a couple, a happy couple. It was sickening. But the most shocking revelation came when Astrid uncovered Bront and Kester's plan. They were planning to leave their spouses and start a new life together, using company funds that Bront had been secretly embezzling. I was stunned. Not only had Bront betrayed me, but she had also committed a serious crime. She was willing to risk everything, her reputation, her career, her freedom, for Kester. That's when I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let them get away with it. I had to expose them, to bring them to justice. I contacted Bront's company and presented them with the evidence Astrid had gathered. They were shocked and appalled. They immediately launched an internal investigation and suspended Bront and Kester pending the outcome. I also contacted Kester's wife, Isolde. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. I knew I was about to shatter her world, to inflict the same pain on her that Bront had inflicted on me. I met Isolde at a coffee shop near her home. She was a kind, gentle woman, completely unaware of her husband's betrayal. I showed her the photos, the messages, the evidence of the affair. Isolde was devastated. She couldn't believe that Kester, the man she loved, the father of her children, was capable of such deceit. She thanked me for telling her the truth, for saving her from a lifetime of lies. As the truth came out, Bront and Kester's world began to crumble around them. They were both fired from their jobs, their reputations ruined. Kester's wife filed for divorce, taking their children with her. Bront faced criminal charges for embezzlement. I watched it all unfold with a sense of grim satisfaction. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was justice. They had hurt me, they had betrayed me, and they had paid the price. Bront tried to contact me to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But I refused to speak to her. I had nothing left to say. She had made her choices and she had to live with the consequences. It's been a year since Bront left. I'm still healing, still trying to piece my life back together. The pain of the betrayal is still there, a dull ache in my heart. But I am also stronger, more resilient. I've learned that trust is a precious thing, easily broken and hard to repair. I've learned that people are capable of great cruelty, even those you love the most. But I've also learned that I am capable of surviving, of overcoming even the most devastating betrayals. I'm not sure what the future holds for me. I may never trust another woman again. But I am open to the possibility of love, of finding someone who will cherish me, respect me, and be faithful to me. In the meantime, I am focusing on myself, on rebuilding my life, on finding happiness and fulfillment on my own. I'm taking up new hobbies, reconnecting with old friends, and exploring new possibilities. I'm not a victim. I am a survivor, and I am determined to live a life filled with joy, love, and authenticity, even if it means doing it alone. I later discovered after the dust had settled that Kester had been fired from his new job after only a few months. No one wanted to hire the guy who committed fraud and cheated on his wife. He had to move back in with his parents. Bront, after serving a short sentence, tried to contact me again. I refused. I had moved on, and she was a painful reminder of a past I wanted to forget. I learned from a mutual friend that she was working as a waitress in a small town far away from Chicago. She was alone and facing the consequences of her actions. I never remarried, but I did find happiness. I traveled, pursued my hobbies, and surrounded myself with good friends. The betrayal left a scar, but it also made me stronger. I learned to trust my instincts and to value my own worth. And so, I stand here today, a man who has been through the fire and emerged stronger on the other side. A man who knows the value of loyalty, honesty, and self-respect. A man who has learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. My story is a reminder that life can be unpredictable, and that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. But it's also a story of resilience, of finding strength in the face of adversity, and of ultimately choosing to move forward and create a life filled with meaning and purpose.